Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome, pet health enthusiasts. We're happy to have you here today. I am holistic pet health coach Melissa Natanson, and I am joined by a colleague of mine, Beth Hrnciar. I am so excited to have you here today, Beth.
Hi, happy to be here.
Well,
A little
good.
nervous though. Never done this before, so this is new.
That's okay. You're doing great so far. But remember, there's nothing to be nervous because this is real talk about real pets and our real reasons for being here.
Of
So
course, I
we're
don't have to
just
make things up.
No, you don't have to make it up. It's all about you. And we're just going to have a real conversation. So, speaking of that conversation, it's been really fun getting to know you. And I know we've had some conversations. She is a dog trainer. She teaches CPR classes and first aid classes for dogs. She has kind of a menagerie at her house, I've learned. But I thought one of the most endearing things that I learned about Beth is her story to becoming a holistic pet health coach. It's quite a long one, but she is going to give us a little bit of a synopsis of how she got here today, because I know I like to talk about how amazing all these holistic pet health coaches are and our vast backgrounds and some of the reasons that we got here. Beth has a unique background in some of the things that she's experienced. It's been different from a few of our other coaches. So I'm excited to share her story today. So Beth, why don't you kind of start out with, let's talk about Tucker and Aphrodite and how they kind of led you to where you are now.
So when I bought my first house and moved out into the real world, I had anticipated getting a dog. That was like my primary goal. So I ended up, and I've been working with animals since I was a kid, but I wanted to get my own first dog. So that was my spiel. So I went and started volunteering at a local shelter. My first day there, I met Tucker. I walked into the kennel, and the way the kennel was set up, you walk through the door, and there was just a row of kennels, and all the dogs would go bananas when you'd walk in. And they all went bananas except for Tucker, this little brindle. He looked like he was a pit bull lab mix, so he looked like a tiny little brindle lab. So I walked over to him, and he pressed his neck up against the bars so I could scratch his neck. And I was like, there's my dog. And so it was love at first sight for me. I went home and I told my boyfriend at the time, I was like, I just found our dog. And he's like, you've only been there one day. How could you have found the dog? You're going to go there every day and find the dog. So it took me a little bit to get him to go and meet Tucker. In the interim, while I was trying to convince him to go meet him, Tucker had been adopted. He had been brought in as a puppy. He was 8 weeks old. He was adopted out immediately by a woman. The woman then kept him for a couple weeks until he was a little bit older. Then she returned him. And then her daughter adopted him. And then she returned him. So that's when I first met him. And in the interim, as to when I finally got my boyfriend to meet him, someone else had come by and had decided to adopt him.
That's so tough.
I know. And he was in and out. And I mean, the things that he went through just from 8 weeks old and on, just until he got to me, was crazy. I was his fourth owner. But so he ended up going home with these people, and a couple weeks later he was brought back again. Ironically, I was kind of like, all right, if he found the right home, that's the right home. And I walked into the shelter to do my normal thing, and I walked in, and there he is again. But his paperwork wasn't on his cage; it was flipped with another dog, and I knew it was him instantly. And he was a litter of, I think, 7 or 8, so all of them had looked similar to him. And it could have been any one of his brothers and sisters that came back, but it was him. So I went in, and he did the same thing he did originally, which was pushed his neck up against the bars while everyone else was going crazy. And I was like, this doesn't make sense, because it was saying his name was something else on the cage. And they went out, and I saw my friend who was running the shelter at the time, and she goes, your dog's back. And I was like, that is him. And she went in, and we realized the paperwork was switched. So I was like, I want my boy. So no, at the same time, the behaviorist for the entire facility came through and had decided that she She walked through the aisles and she would point out the dogs that she wanted euthanized that day. And she believed that she had some great power where she could just look at an animal and say, that's not a good dog. And because he had been returned twice, regardless of what the reasons were, or 3 times actually, regardless of what the reasons were, she decided he was a bad dog and it was a bite risk. She wanted him put to sleep. So they euthanized 7 dogs that day and he was supposed to be number 8.
Oh, that gives me goosebumps.
It was pretty horrible. We were all very upset because none of those dogs deserved to lose their lives that day. But the staff was kind of unhappy because they all had their favorites and they went to bat because I wanted Tucker. So Tucker had to then spend a month there under the supervision of myself, the girl who brought him in, who was one of the staff members who originally brought his litter in, and one other person. So when we weren't there, he was left. He had to stay in his cage. He couldn't come out. So he would be holding his whatever for 24 hours. So he was incredibly housebroken as well. So I was on pins and needles for a month because I was so afraid they were going to put him to sleep while I wasn't there. And we had devised a plan. We were going to sneak him out the back and all that other stuff. But so I walked in on a Saturday morning and my friend was there and she goes, "Do you want to take your dog home today?" And I was like, do I ever? So there was only one time that I said, what am I doing? It's the time he decided to bounce up while I was bending over and he almost broke my nose. And I was like, what am I doing taking this dog?
Yeah.
But that was the only doubt I ever had. He was my boy. So after that, pulled him. He went home and I just started pulling dogs left and right because they were going to euthanize them. So I had, at one point I had taken a Jack Russell named Tucker. So I had 2 Tuckers in the house. So as a training conundrum, I was like, when I'm trying to train one Tucker, when the other Tucker's not doing anything wrong, you learn quickly not to use the word, not to use names. Right. So everything that's happened in my life has led me to where I am today. It's just been a kind of a snowball effect. And T was just, he was my muse. I mean, I rescued him. He rescued me. Go ahead.
Well, you said that animals were your refuge when you were a kid. And as you moved through your life, it seemed like you wanted to switch up the refuge that they were for you, and you became a refuge for them. And you really were big into rescuing and working at the shelter.
Yeah. I was volunteering at one shelter and working at another. So I was
at this point, was holistic pet healthcare in your life? Like, how were you operating, and how did you handle Tucker?
So I was slowly getting into doing more natural things. I was like everybody else, I just listened to my vet. When I first brought T home, they gave me that bag of science diet that they give you, and I was feeding him that, and he was losing clumps of hair. And I was like, what is going on? And a friend of mine said, you need to feed him Innova. At the time, California Natural and Innova was the big natural food. So I switched him over, and within 2 weeks, his fur was back beautiful. So that's what kind of set me on the path with hey, this is weird, nutrition and food and all that. And then as I went along, that's when Aphrodite kind of came into our life. She was a mom. She came in pregnant into the shelter. They didn't know it. They opened her up to spay her, found the puppies, closed her back up and said, let's see what happens. She ended up giving birth to 7 really healthy puppies, but she was only 6 months old. So I ended up fostering her and all the puppies. That was quite the adventure. That was fun. But, and then she ended up staying because her and Tucker instantly hit it off, and she wasn't good with other dogs. So from her, I learned more about training, because now I had a dog that was dog reactive or selectively dog reactive. So I learned how to deal with all that. I learned how to raise puppies. And as I go, I just kept picking up knowledge. And then further on, as Tucker got older and he started having senior things start happening to him, everything I did revolved around Tucker. So I would learn as I went. So now, that's why I have a whole love for seniors, because I was able to rehab him when he was 13. He had a sudden loss of muscle mass, which is actually kind of a thing for dogs sometimes. He was 100 pounds down to 65. And we thought he had cancer, and he was tested for everything. And it was just a senior kind of muscle loss thing that he went through. And I rehabbed him using CBD. That my friend, my bestie, got into CBD because of her dog, and we used CBD on Tucker, and it was night and day. He wasn't able to walk. Then all of a sudden he's walking again. We went from not even be able to walk across the yard to walking 3 and 4 miles. He passed away just shy of his 16th birthday in my living room.
I'm sorry.
But I learned so much from him. He's always with me. He comes he's always with. I've Ash is with
I
me.
love that idea to have them. It's like dogs are close to your heart in the physical when they're here, and to keep them close to your heart almost as a showing of the spiritual connection. I really love that.
Yeah. And I know he's always with me. It's like you always see like that little, you look out of the corner of your eye and you see a tail go by in your imagination, and that's them. At least that's what I like to think.
I got goosebumps, so that means that's true. That's true.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
I've been
my
told
yes.
that he's sent me other dogs. Aphrodite was able to stay because of him. Ty, who I have now, was brought in because of him and her combination of the two. So Aphrodite taught me about that. She taught me about mast cell cancer because she had it from when she was 6 months old. And it came back again when she was about 12, and overnight, four little tumors popped up, and my vet, we immediately took them off. We were able to just get a little bit of the cells to find out that it was cancer. So we took them off, and my vet came out of that surgery and said, I'm never doing another surgery on this dog. Figure out how to keep this from coming back. So that was another catalyst into figuring out, okay, well, what's the catalyst to that? That's when I started feeding better. That's when I started feeding raw. And I started.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Beth.
No, that's when like things, I started going more the natural route, because I'm like, well, she got mast cell doing this conventional route, so the opposite would be the true, how to keep it away, I would assume. And that's
and for any pet parents that are listening right now that may not be familiar with what mast cell is, so mast cell tumors produce histamine, and histamine is what has a systemic reaction and can cause the itchies, and also histamine can cause inflammation in the joints and the skin and all sorts of things. So it's really kind of a monster to deal with it. And there is a lot of holistic ways that mast cell tumors can be managed. Quercetin is one of them. So quercetin helps the body process the histamine. In addition to, just a little plug for CBD Dog Health, I thought it was so interesting to learn that Beth was using CBD Dog Health long before she became a holistic pet health coach. And so that's one of our favorite brands. And she was able to speak with Angela Ardolino and learn a lot more about CBD Dog Health and the benefits, in particular when it comes to allergies, and more specifically cancer, and the research that is coming out regarding CBD and how we can keep some of these tumors at bay, and more importantly, keep our dogs feeling comfortable while they're going through this stuff.
And the mushrooms. Her mushroom stuff is unbelievable. Like when I first got Barbie, who's one of my current dogs, she had a breathing problem. She's brachycephalic. And I couldn't figure out how to get rid of this cough. I started her on Breathe, Microdogs Breathe, and it was 2 days gone. It's unbelievable, the stuff that comes. And these are all natural products, right? I mean, vets like, oh, I don't know why she's coughing. Let's X-ray her lungs and blah blah blah. I'm like, no. And just it's the things that have amazed me over the years. When Aphrodite was sick, we did vitamin C therapy on her. And along that complemented the chemo. So I'm a big fan of integrating when you have to. She had TCC, transitional cell carcinoma, which is a bladder cancer. It's a very aggressive cancer. And some dogs get lucky, and the prednisolone will work and it'll shrink the tumors down. Some dogs didn't. And unfortunately, Aphrodite was one of them. But I worked with Dr. Pope, Kendra Pope, down in New Jersey. I worked with a traditional oncologist here. And then I also worked with Smith Ridge, who's Dr. Marty's place, and we were doing vitamin C therapy and all kinds of things. And unfortunately, it didn't save her. But I learned so much from the thing. It's just every animal that has come into my life has taught me something.
It's really, you really said it so well when you said, like, all roads have led me here so far. And this is one of the reasons why I thought it was so important to do the Coaches Collab, because all of our stories are so important. Because these stories and the struggles that we've had, and the heartbreak that we've had, and frankly, the school of hard knocks that we've had to go through with our own pet, is part of our background and part of the passion that we bring to doing what we do. Because I know that you remember what it's like to feel hopeless when you're like, what do I do? What do I do? I've got all these options, and what do I do? And I certainly remember what it was like to feel that way when I was in the deep with what Darla was going through. And she was my path that led me here. And luckily, Darla is still with us. And I attribute that all to finding, I mean, I had to find a better way. We have to find a better way. And I know we talk about this a lot. It's not, oh, don't seek vet care. We absolutely need vets. And you were talking about how we have, we have a lot of integrative vets, and we need them. We need them for diagnostics and the blood work and a lot of things that goes. But we have since learned that sometimes the standard of care that is offered
standard
can
of
be
care.
expanded upon so much. And a lot of it is just flat out old science. You talked about kibble being one of them.
It's
And
there's still the box that conventional vets put themselves in makes me crazy, because these are smart people. I almost went to vet school, but I didn't. But I know what it takes to go through that, and what they know and they learn is ridiculous. But the fact that they come out, I hate to use the term brainwashed, but that's kind of what they are. When you have vet techs too, they're even worse than vets usually, because you're going to kill your dog. You're feeding your dog raw. You're gonna kill your dog. Are they leaving bags of kibble out in the wild when our dogs get loose and they come back a month later and they're alive? I mean,
sorry. I mean, that was good.
I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I have a friend whose dog comes over all the time and kills squirrels in my yard. I hate that, but it is what it is. And when it first happened, she's like, "Oh my God, should I take him to the vet?" No, he ate a squirrel.
It's just instinct.
Right? He just had dinner, and he's got fur in there too. So that's
good fiber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, and now, there's fur is by and large not a part of the canine diet, although it should be. So now, we substitute fiber in other ways with, mostly veggies and on occasion some fruits. And there's good things that we can put in here. But
there's all those cool foods that they make, all the freeze-dried stuff and all the like the wrap stuff, like the feed reel has all those, like the rabbit pelts and rolled stuff.
Yeah.
So you can get like fiber and or fur
into
their diet that way.
That is very true.
Well,
and it's nice that it's been incredible to learn differently. I studied canine nutrition for many, many years. And once again, part of being a holistic pet health coach is we go through the holistic nutritional training as well, so that we can customize diets for these pets. And if they're dealing with kidney issues or cancer issues or liver issues or whatever it may be, that's what we're here for. So
even though we're going to kill your pets. I had a friend reach out to me, or actually I noticed a friend reached out on Facebook last night asking what, like in the Facebook community, what can I feed my dog that has a sensitive stomach and that'll help her teeth? And of course, everyone's like, science diet. And I messaged her separately, and I was like, please pick up some chicken necks, raw chicken necks. Get her started on those. That'll clean her teeth, so you don't have to do the put her to sleep to have her teeth cleaned. And then I said, go to the local pet store, I know that sells the good stuff, and get her a lightly cooked diet. Get her small batch, get her open farm, get her any one of those, because it's so much better than science diet. And she's
make the crock pot at home. Crock pot, everyone.
I know. I ease people into the cooking part of it.
Yeah.
But it's because a lot of people are like, I don't cook for myself. Neither do I. But
right.
I enjoy cooking for my dogs.
It can be hard, and it can be a transition. And once again, just saying this, we definitely don't want to make this like, that we are getting a little down on the vets. That's not what it is about at all.
Not at all.
But simply, I like to say that we're here to bridge the gap between pet parents and veterinary care, because even when it comes to diagnosis, vets are so busy. We always throw this out there. There's 80 million pets in this country and approximately 75,000 vets. So they're overworked, they're overwhelmed, and we've got a lot of pets in this country that need help. We're in an epidemic of pet health crisis and issues, between cancer to GI to skin to kidney disease. And lots of times I've found that pet parents will get a diagnosis and they'll say, there's kidney disease, and then put on one of those diets that shall not be named prescriptions. And when we know now that science is very clear that putting them on a whole fresh foods diet is the best for them. And that's where we can help bridge the gap. To be a compassionate guide, we can help tell them, here's a diet that will work. Here's why we do it this way. And here's some more explanation of why this is occurring when they get a diagnosis. Because I think so often, I know, like for me with Darla, when I was first getting all these like diagnoses and bleeding ulcers and IBD, and I was like, holy monkey, what am I going to do now? You know, and it was tough.
Bleeding ulcers are no joke. They're scary.
They're very scary. Yeah.
Blood in the poop, the blood coming out on both ends. It's like,
yeah,
what's going on?
That's how I almost lost her. She started vomiting her own blood from the bleeding ulcer and then aspirated it. Oh, if that won't make you figure out a better way, I don't know what will. And I mean, there's been so many experiences about that. But speaking of vets, we want to talk about our favorite vet for a minute. The original pet health coach, integrative vet, Dr. Ruth Roberts. Now, you had a chance encounter with our mentor and original coach that kind of got you going this direction. Why don't you tell us about that?
So we went to the feed reel. My friend and I, Naja. Hi, Naja, if you're watching. We went to the feed reel last year, the first one, and we were lucky enough to stay with Angela and the CBD dog crew in their rented house. And Dr. Ruth was also staying there along with Dr. PJ Broadfoot, who is pretty fantastic as well. And we got the chance to meet Dr. Ruth and spend the weekend with her when we were all on some downtime. And at that point we had known about the course, but we were kind of just still in the like, is this something we need, something we don't need? And having met her and then really getting a feel for what she was trying to accomplish, and also with Angela, because Angela was a part of it as well, we realized that it was the direction to take it. It was the tie-in where everything could come together and also give us the credentials, because I've had so many people be like, well, you're not a vet. And I'm like, okay, well, then I have 20 years of experience doing this. And I've, if it hasn't been one of my dogs, I've had a client go through it, or I've had one of my shelter dogs go through it, or one of my foster dogs has gone through it. There's not much I haven't seen. And it just gives me the credentials to say, I at least have this training and I have a vet behind me.
That our School of Hard Knocks was valid.
Yes, basically. So yeah, that was pretty fantastic being able to meet her. That was a good weekend. So I'm looking forward to going to the feed reel again this year.
So you signed up for the course. Fun fact about Beth and I, we were doing the course at the same time. And we both originally started out with Delora DeVore, who's now the program director. That was fun. And I was the graduate number 50 and Beth was 51. I'm sorry.
I was trying so hard to be 50. I'm glad you were it though. I was like, I never knew. I was like, who got 50? And Natalie wasn't sure. So
well, thank you. And Beth is a big part of the Holistic Pet Health Coaching Program. And if y'all don't know, there is an event coming up soon. We've got the Know Better, Do Better event that is coming up in Chicago. It is on September 8th. And everyone's really excited for that. And Beth will be teaching a first aid seminar, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, so there is a link. Anybody who's wondering, there is a link to the flyer for the Know Better, Do Better event that is coming up on September 8th. And cost for tickets is $29.99, and the proceeds all go to local shelter animals. So something very near and dear to Beth's heart.
I love that. I hope I'm out there, I can actually visit some of the shelters.
That would be awesome. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to talk about that. If you end up getting to do that, maybe we should hop on live. And I totally want to see you there in action.
That's what I do on vacations. I don't go on vacation to lay on a beach. I go to like work with dogs. I went to Thailand. Naja and I went to Thailand and spent the day at Soy Dog. So it was like anytime we go anywhere, we always try to find the local dogs that we can help out. So
that's amazing. So you are certified in CPR and first aid for dogs. I love this because I feel like this is something every pet parent needs to have the basics down, and every holistic pet health coach. And tell us a little bit about your story as to why you're like, I got to get certified here.
Yeah, I hate being helpless. I hate that feeling when something goes wrong and I don't know what's going on and I can't fix it. It's very annoying. So I was working in one of the 2 shelters. It was the one I was working at. I was the weekend manager at Paws. And we brought in a mom and I think it was 6 or 7 puppies that were born in the middle of winter underneath somebody's front porch. So they were brought into animal control. We heard about them and we pulled them. So we had them at our shelter, just decompressing and getting warm and everything. They were there for a couple days and I was working and I went in to feed in the morning and one of the puppies started to gasp for breath and dropped. So we rushed the puppy to the emergency vet and we are blessed to have like 5 of them, like within throwing a rock to where we live right now. So I know that some people aren't that lucky and it sucks. But so we rushed her to the vet and unfortunately didn't make it. And the vet didn't know why. They assumed that the puppy had maybe pneumonia or something like that from being out in the cold. So they said, just keep an eye on the other puppies. So that's what we were doing. And then I went in later on that day to look at the other puppies and feed them and stuff like that. And while I'm playing with them in the middle of it, they just started to gasp for breath and 2 more started to drop. So we gathered up all of them and the mom and we were rushing them to the emergency vet. And I'm helplessly holding these 2 little things gasping and they were dying in my arms. And I was like, I don't know what to do. So my friends and I were like, well, let's try CPR. And I was like, but if I breathe too much in, I could blow up their lungs and that doesn't help. If I breathe too little, I'm not doing anything. So I gave it my best shot. Unfortunately, none of the puppies survived. They all had distemper. So there wasn't anything I could do. It really sucked, but we were able to save mom. Mom was awesome. She was a beautiful little pitty and she ended up getting adopted. But that feeling of hopelessness was unacceptable to me. So I immediately went out and tried to find a CPR and first aid course that I could learn how to do it myself. I had no intentions of teaching it, but there was none available. The American Red Cross had one, which was terrible. And it was just a guy sitting up there telling stories. And I'm like, are we going to learn anything? So I then went and tried to find something better. Around that same time, in that time period, I also opened up my dog daycare and boarding and training facility. And I needed people that worked for me to know what to do as well. So I wanted to get certified in how to teach it so that I could teach them. So that's why I ran out and I did their course and now I teach.
So now Beth had recommended, of course, there's going to be the event going on, but for more in-depth CPR classes, she recommended pettech.net. That is there up on the screen. And there's also a link in the comments because this is a really important topic and it's important for people to know. So if anybody watching today has any questions for Beth in regards to that, please let us know what your questions are while you're here. So, and Beth, a little bit more about you. So you have been a dog trainer now for how long?
20 plus years.
That's amazing.
I started out as a yank and crank trainer and I quickly segued over to being positive because there's a huge difference in training style.
So Beth has been a very busy lady, but she is working on her website, which is and her company, Follow My Lead Pets, and it's also followmyleadpets.com. So if you have questions about that. And one of the interesting things that Beth and I were talking about is what role nutrition plays in pet behavior. So let's talk about that a little bit. Actually, before you answer that question, I just have a question. Is anybody else hearing the feedback? Because I'm getting a ton of feedback in my ear. And if you are, we're going to try something else because I don't want that to annoy everyone else like it's annoying me.
How's that?
Better.
Okay. Let's roll that way.
Much better. Yeah.
I apologize for the technical difficulties. Why is audio stuff can be so grating in my ear? So I've not had it with that. Okay. So back to our topic at hand. Before, what was my question?
We were talking about behavior and food.
Okay, thank you. Oh boy, remember we also had that talk about my ADHD? That was a good example.
Don't get old is the only thing I can tell you.
I need to eat better.
That too. Red Bulls are so good though.
nutrition and behavior. You were telling me about some of your requirements when people work with you, and I think it's really important to talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, over the years, I've always swayed with just kind of doing what people want me to do, and then I realized I'm like, food is such a huge deal because I mean, especially if they're kibble fed dogs. If you have a dog, I work with anxiety a lot, mostly anxiety. I enjoy working with it and finding out what's making the dogs tick to make them to get them to calm down, and without having to use fluoxetine and all that other stuff, because there are side effects to fluoxetine and they don't even really know what fluoxetine does. They have no studies. I've tried to find them and nobody can answer these questions. So but I did find over the years that just switching to a fresh diet will often change everything. So it's getting them off of, like, even on a cooked diet or a raw diet, either whatever it is, makes a huge difference. Just taking them off of kibble, sometimes that'll solve your behavioral problems right off the bat. Kibble's like eating sugary cereals every day.
Too many carbs.
Yep. Exactly. Imagine that. Imagine if you fed children that way. And well, a lot of people do. But if the kids were eating sugary cereal for every meal, and on top of that, eating the same sugary cereal every meal, so you're getting only the same nutrition, you're not getting anything else. It really does wreak havoc. We have one dog who was a rescue, and she had a little bit of a bite history. She was anxious and whatever, and Naja ended up keeping her as a pet. She stayed in the family. She helped with her dog Tonka and his rehabilitation. But prior to that, she'd been kicked around through a couple homes. And we got her to one of our friends who is a trainer and works with aggressive dogs. And his first thing was to switch them over to a raw diet. And he switched her over to a raw diet. And it was like a switch, and her everything calmed down and she was okay. It was put to the test when she went back to a foster home, and the foster person moved her to another home without telling us. And that person put her back on, I think it was like Rachel Ray's or something like that. And then she was like, we have to get rid of this dog. This dog's biting everyone and blah, 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 blah. And as soon as we got her back and put her into back onto the raw diet, her demeanor completely changed. So that's an extreme. We don't see that kind of behavioral shifts, but that's the power of food in general, and not over medicating. Trazodone. I mean, what's with the trazodone? Like, that's just what they give dogs now. I have a senior that I'm working with that we're trying to get off the trazodone because he's got dementia. And I'm like, well, put him on Mycodog, the Clarity, because that's what that's for.
Yeah,
and get him off the trazodone.
Yeah.
Get him off he's actually eating well. But the other thing I've learned is, if you could be feeding them the best diet, but if they're allergic to it or sensitive to it, you're wasting your time, because then they feel like crap anyway. So that the Glacier Peaks tests or the 5 strands tests or any of those tests, I don't care which one you use, are so helpful in figuring that out. My girl Ty has raging allergies, and I have to do a test on her every 6 months, if not more often, because she's so overwhelmingly allergic to things or sensitive to things. And they do change, because my very first test, she was allergic to every grass in the state of Connecticut. So short of my dog learning to levitate, I'm a good trainer, but I'm not that good. What am I going to do? And her feet were bleeding and cracked and falling off. And my vet's like, let's give her Apoquel. And I'm like, no, we're not going to give her cancer to avoid getting her allergies. Right. So I was able to reverse her allergy problems within 2 weeks of figuring out what it was she was allergic to. And it changed her behavior as well, because she wasn't miserable. So she was much more herself. So it's become a passion of mine of getting dogs. That's the first thing. You can't work with me unless you're willing to change their food. Basically, that's my sticking point. I'll do anything else, but if you're stuck in the food thing with my vet said kibble, go find another trainer.
Well, I mean, I think it's an important point to make that we have to have the foundation here. And the foundation for inflammatory responses in the body is, we know that A, they need a whole fresh food diet, and B, we want to avoid the inflammatory triggers if they're there, because research has shown that brain inflammation a lot of times leads to a lot of these behavioral issues. And I know that we were talking yesterday a little bit more about, Beth and I were talking about rescue animals and how they always kind of just have this underlying simmering anxiety. And in my own research, I have found that probably 100% of the animals that I work with that have GI issues were a rescue animal. Now, I'm not saying don't rescue an animal. Absolutely do it. But the reason those GI issues are there is because probably a lot of these animals didn't have very good lives before they got rescued. And there's PTSD in animals is a real thing.
Mhm.
And it does affect how their parathyroid, their parasympathetic nervous system, and how their brain reacts in telling their stomach to digest. It can affect parasystolis, how fast the food is moving through the stomach and going down to the small intestine. And when they don't have their nervous system in check, energy is diverted away from digestion and into calming down what nervous energy might be going on. I had a revelation a couple of weeks ago with Darla, who struggles with acid reflux when she gets stressed. And I started giving her, after I'd done all the GI stuff, some anti-anxiety Chinese herbs. 2 days later, little pumpkin has the acid reflux is down by 80%.
It's amazing.
So we're always learning, right, Beth?
And you didn't need Pepsid.
If you don't, you don't need a Pepsid, you don't need a Meprazole. There's a lot of ways that we can go through.
They're also finding links with microbiome stuff. I do a lot of animal biome testing on dogs and stuff too, because they're finding links for behavior, especially reactivity, with I'm never going to say it right, Fusilobacterium, I think it is, but yeah, one of the F ones. They when it's too high and out of whack, it will cause reactivity. As soon as they balance it out, and they usually balance it out with food if they can, or not, they'll balance it out with FMTs, fecal matter transplants. Right. They can correct behavior that way. And it makes me sad because I've been doing rescue for so long, and knowing all the dogs that I've seen put to sleep for behavioral problems that were probably very, very easily fixed, but people don't want to spend the time. Why would you, when you can just take one of the perfect ones or buy a dog? So
yeah, well, we definitely share that interest, Beth, and I'm looking forward to talking to you more about that. And on that note, one of the amazing things about being a holistic pet health coach is all of the people that I have met through this program. And yes, I hear the feedback, and I'm sorry, I don't know where it's coming from.
I don't know why it came back. That's weird.
I don't know if it's the feed. I know Instagram is telling me that it's having some issues right now, so I don't know if that's where it's coming from. I apologize, but I'll try to get to the bottom of it before the next live, because I understand it's distracting, and I'm sorry. But going back to the beauty of being a holistic pet health coach is we have a team. And if we don't know what's going on, I can ask Beth. Beth can ask me. There's a team of amazing pet health coaches. We all share our experiences. We share our knowledge. We share our background. And we have the backing of Dr. Ruth, which has been amazing. And we're always learning. And so when you've got one of us as a holistic pet health coach, you've got an entire team behind you. It's pretty amazing. And if you are interested in having a consult with Beth and her amazing knowledge, especially when it comes to behavior in nutrition, you will see a link to Beth's page and how you can book with Beth in the comments there, and she'd be happy to answer any questions now. So Beth, my question for you is, if there was anything that you would want people to know about you as a pet health coach and about your heart, or what is something you would really want them to understand or clarify, what would it be?
Oh God.
I know, kind of
blunt. I don't beat around the bush. I'm very blunt. I tend to, I guess that's probably what I want you to know. When I work with a client, I tend to draw on all of my experiences, even because I've had so many, and like most of them I can apply, from birth, because I've raised puppies, to death, because I've had dogs die, unfortunately, with me, my own dogs, my clients' dogs, so when you work with me, you're getting my 20 some odd years of experience. And I also have experience with like turtles. I have 3 turtles. I have a tortoise that I've learned to work with. I resuscitated a turtle. So if you ever need to know how to do that, I can tell you.
You resuscitated a turtle?
Yeah. My Hank, my little Eastern painted turtle drowned. So I had to resuscitate him. That was interesting.
When I say we have unique talents, I meant it.
Yeah, I've worked. The only thing I haven't really worked with is horses because I just haven't had the connection with it. But that's what I try to do as a holistic pet health coach. I just try to draw on my past experiences and bring them out with what I already know. It's fun to be able to use what I've learned along the way. I got a dog walking again that hadn't had back injuries or had a degenerative spinal condition. So I got her walking again, not well, but she was walking. I was able to put weight on that same dog who was a skeleton. So all these little things that I've picked up along the way, I feel like it's valuable information for pet parents that don't know.
And it's invaluable information because I believe that the best learning that we have is when we learn by experience, whether it's good or bad, and unfortunately, a lot of times it's those tough experiences that set us on the path that help us to find our true north and teach us the most. And I truly believe that we are all here to spread this knowledge and to ultimately help pets. I know we're all in it. We're in it for the pets because they've touched us so much, and there's a lot of pets that need help. Rena asked real quick, where are you at, Beth?
Oh, in Connecticut, Lower Fairfield County.
Okay. So you guys are a ways away because Rena's in San Diego, but
I'm jealous. San Diego's so pretty.
Well, maybe you should just come visit us because I'm on the Central Coast. You could do a California tour.
I could. That's a good idea. Throw all my animals in the car.
East Coast tour.
Well, are you guys going to the feed rail?
I'm going to try real hard. I'm going to be out of the country until the day before. So I am going to try really hard to get there. But like going to other countries and helping, I'm hoping that I can do something fun with like some Swiss mountain dogs while I'm there.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. That might be a little surprise coming up. But okay. So Beth, now comes the fun part. Although I feel like we've had fun.
It has been fun.
Yeah.
Time's flown.
So here comes the fun part. I still don't have a ringtone. Are you a good singer, Beth, just by chance?
Actually, kind of. But I sound good in the shower. I don't know about to the rest of the world, but yeah. I have a friend who's a musician. He tells me I can sing. I don't know.
So another little fun fact about me, believe it or not, I went to musical theater. I was a musical theater major in college. I then switched to business and health and all the other stuff. But I sang for a long time, but I'm still not thinking I'm brave enough to come up with my own like jingle for, hold on, it's coming. Pet perks and pet peeves. Maybe this time I really need like a
pet perks.
That was way better. That was a lot better than mine.
You need like a guitar riff in there.
Yeah. Anybody play the guitar? Okay, we'll figure it out. So, pet perks and pet peeves. If you don't know what they are, pet perks are the top 3 things we can't live without, and we're happy they're in our lives. And they're complete perk, whether they're a pet product, thing, whatever. Pet peeves are wave a magic wand, gone, never to be seen on this earth again. We would be better off without them. So 1, 2, 3, go. Pet perks. Beth, what are some of your pet perks?
So those are constantly evolving. As of right now, I'm going to say ozone because the applications appear to be endless. I do have an ozone machine at my house that I'm playing around with. I bought it when Aphrodite was sick, and I'm hoping that that's going to keep Barbie's ears, which is an ongoing project, from getting reinfected after I finally get them clear of infection. They are deformed, so I'm hoping that keeps the ear canal, not so funky. What else?
That's
I'm
been a
loving.
big.
Sorry, go ahead.
Her ears have been a big challenge.
Yeah, they've been very. She's back on ketoconazole, and I hate putting her on medication, but that's where the integration starts because the natural stuff wasn't touching it, and it was so bad. So I had to put her back on pharmaceuticals, which I'm okay with. So I just have to detox her and be proactive.
Right.
CBD, I think, is one of those things. It was a toss-up between Adored Beast, Gut Health, and CBD. And I think that CBD wins that one because it's so versatile for pain, inflammation, cancer, gut health, all of it, that works. And then, God, these tests that they've come out with recently are freaking fantastic. I don't know if I could ever live without them now, because between the innovative Pet Lab test for leaky gut, the Glacier Peaks test for food sensitivities and environmental sensitivities, what's the other one? Animal biome.
Check Pup for HTMA, that's hair tissue mineral analysis. Those are very insightful.
Yep. All of these tests are so great now. I don't know if I could go back to doing it the other way, because it's just guesswork at that point. And I mean, it's hard enough what we do because it takes time to make these things happen. But like when you have the vet telling you have to go on a hydrolyzed protein diet to try to figure out what they're allergic to, you rule that all out, right? You don't even have to waste time on that cornstarch bag of horrors. You can just, do a test and see what its sensitivities are. The only thing is it's not an allergy test, the sensitivity test. So those can change very quickly. Yes. My dog, the one I do every couple months or every quarter at least, I know she's allergic to turkey. She breaks out in hives. So she looks like a little dinosaur when she has turkey. So that always shows up sensitivity red. So I know that they work basically. And I've done it. I've done the sensitivity test and pulled all the stuff I could out. And within weeks, everything is cleared up. So they do work. So the tests, I would need to have tests.
I agree. And just, a quick reminder, I'm going to bounce in there again. With these tests are available through Dr. Ruth and through us as holistic pet health coaches. We can make recommendations on what we would recommend would be best suited to what your dog has going on. As Beth mentioned, that was such a great point, Beth. If your dog is prone to GI issues and leaky gut, the food sensitivities may change. That's why we often recommend rotating proteins so that the gut, if there is some IgG, that's an immunoglobulin reaction in the gut, is continuing to come forth. Then if they don't see that protein as often, then the body doesn't get a chance to form an antibody response against it. And that's where we see a lot of these skin issues. So these can be very helpful. They can be a little bit pricier, but I feel like in the end, the time that you save on all the trial and error, and instead of going through, let's try turkey and then beef and then whatever, and we're not getting anywhere, this cuts that time out. And so you ultimately save time and money.
Well, that, and you don't have to put your dogs on Cytopoint and Apoquel. And they're supposedly developing a new one now. I'm like, what? And it's a little scary. I mean, Cytopoint and Apoquel are game changers if you have a dog whose fur or skin is falling off and you need to get them immediate relief. But a lot of the vets are just prescribing them long term because they don't know what else to do. And
as a first, we like to think of it as to being the last thing to try. Or sometimes it can be the first with the idea to get them weaned off of it. Yes, if the fur is falling off. But I think the point you're trying to make, Beth, is that we know that there is a better option to have true healing, because those two things are a Band-Aid only. It doesn't make the condition go away. The condition still exists.
Yep. Thinking integration again, using those pharmaceuticals to help with the alleviate pain, because they shouldn't suffer by any means, but you also shouldn't let them suffer by developing other problems by using too many pharmaceuticals. So,
right. Absolutely.
Yep.
What are your pet peeves?
Ooh. I'm going to get flack for some of these, I think. The first one is, but my vet said, I freaking hate that. Did
I just laugh at that?
Yeah. I have a lot of respect for vets. Don't get me wrong. I have some great friends that are vets. I love my surgeon, Dr. Laz. I love him. He's a god to me, but we part ways when it comes to nutrition and food and things like that. So, client with the dog and the teeth, and my vet said that she has to eat kibble because it cleans her teeth. No. No. Have you ever looked at your dog after eating kibble? It's all stuck in their teeth and everything.
I always say, I'll say to some pet parents, like, how do your teeth feel after you eat a cracker? Like all the cracker sticks up in there. That's the same thing that happens with kibble. And from a science standpoint, if we're going to go there, dogs' mouths don't make amylase. They make amylase, an digestive enzyme in their pancreas. And so if they don't have amylase in their mouth, they can't break down carbohydrates. So it just turns into sugar, and then tartar builds up. So
and that's all kibble is.
Yep.
It's carbohydrates.
Yep. So it's amazing how the knowledge base has changed on that, because I'm always kind of surprised when I'm still hearing that, like, oh, I heard that I need to, or my vet said I need to be on kibble to prevent this.
Mm-hmm. This real food's going to kill your dog.
I think we would. I guess the consensus is we respectfully disagree, and we can show you some other options. All right.
That's my next one.
Okay.
Follow the science. Let's do that.
We just said that. I'm all but the
Yeah, follow the science is a big peeve of mine as well, especially when it comes to like vaccines. And I'm not an anti-vaxxer. Vaccines have their place. But when someone tells me follow the science, but refuses to accept the fact that there's a cause and effect, hence the basis of science is cause and effect, right? But apparently when you want the cause and effect, that doesn't exist. This follow the science makes me crazy. Same thing with like follow the science with science diet. I mean, we've done all the hard work for you. Yeah, your hydrolyzed protein starts with cornstarch, and then it goes into a hydrolyzed chicken liver, because I just looked this up today. Hydrolyzed chicken liver, hydrolyzed chicken, and then it goes into powdered cellulose. Does everyone know what that is?
I do. Can I answer?
Yes, please.
Powdered wood pulp.
Yeah. How is that nutritious? And don't get me started on the science that they put together to get that microbiome food, which like their main ingredient thing that they use to actually make the gut work is crushed pecan shells.
Oh, I've not heard of this one.
Oh yeah. As soon as I saw it come out, I was like, oh, so what is solving the gut health problems? And they use crushed pecan shells because they in the gut will somehow make some kind of bacterial thing happen to ferment. It may ferment in the gut is what the answer was. And I'm like, that's what you're spending $130 a bag on? I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
So all the science bothers me.
So summing that up, we're not really calling anyone out specifically, just to clarify, although we may or may not have. It's more like we are being advocates for a fresh whole foods diet, a diet that you make at home, or a reputable company that we know is sourcing their meat and ingredients from a place that meets certain standards and is more bioavailable for the dog. Because I think how I take it when a pet peeve is like follow the science. Well, we also have to look at who is sponsoring the science.
Oh yeah, you can't rely on studies at all anymore unless you know who's putting the study out. I mean, the one takeaway would be, I don't think most people know that kibble is feed grade food, and all the stuff, the crap that they don't want or they can't use in the human food supply, that's going into your pet food. And you wonder why your dog has allergies. It's unfortunate, but that's how the FDA feels it's the best way to get rid of a lot of the waste. And it goes into our animals. So follow the science there.
Yeah.
Susan Thixton, she's the god. You got to go. If you want to learn more about that, follow her.
Who?
Susan Thixton.
Oh, okay. I'm going to write that.
You don't know Susan Thixton?
Her
website will scare you.
Oh, yes, I do. I'm sorry. I just had a brain.
What is it? I don't even know what it is. It's like the truth about pet food, maybe?
Yeah. She's got her pet food list, which is amazing.
Yes. And that's, I get that every year.
All volunteer. She just asked for like a small donation, and then she aggressively tests a lot of these foods. And I know her pet list and her pet food list is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. And it's extensive and it takes all year to do, but it's, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty anti-kibble, but there's a couple that I would recommend if people are dead set, like Open Farm is a great one. Bixby Liberty is probably the only two that I would refer. But yeah, just if you're feeding that stuff, just make sure it's human grade, because then you're not feeding roadkill and diseased animals and everything else, and maybe euthanize pets.
Yeah. I think, I always like to use visuals. Well, everybody knows, maybe you don't know yet, but that I call kibble burnt brown balls.
I've heard you say that. It's what it is.
From her Herbsmith said this on a pet summit the other day, and I got a message from a fellow Petco, Maggie Shellhammer, and she's like, "Did you get that from her?" And I said, "No, I made that up on my own." She goes, "Well, maybe she's listening to you then," because she called kibble burnt brown balls. BBB.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
I mean, pointing out the obvious.
I like to think. Okay, so since you shared a pet peeve and we're having so much fun, one of mine is, well, I wouldn't ever give my pets any human food. Well,
and they say that with such pride.
No shame. Once again, you only know what you know until you know different, right? And
True.
When we've been in this machine of those who should not be named prescription diets and all of this stuff going on that has been designated the best. Oh, I didn't mean for that to happen.
Hooray!
And when we've heard for so long, don't give people food. Well, when we say don't give people food, or if that was said, it means don't give them tacos, but
don't give them that marinated piece of steak that's dripping with,
right. Maybe spaghetti isn't the best choice. What was that kitty on TV that ate spaghetti his whole life? Garfield.
Garfield. Yes.
You can't be Garfield, but they're mammals just like we are, and they need fresh whole foods just like we do. A piece of steak, great, as long as it has no seasoning. A nice chicken breast. We don't usually say chicken, or something fresh, some fresh wild blueberries.
Salmon.
All those people foods, totally.
Dandelion greens. My landscaper thinks I'm insane because I get mad at him when they pull the dandelions up. I'm like, leave those freaking dandelions. I need those.
I'm a huge fan of dandelion leaves.
Those are so good. And like you can use the whole dandelion, like everything. The leaves, the flowers, the roots, everything has a purpose. It's fantastic.
Great for digestion, great for kidneys and liver, even it has some diuretic properties. Oh, man. I think we could just go forever on this. But we don't have any questions at the moment. So we're getting down to the final moments. I mean, I think it's time we can take the pet peeves and pet perks off so we can just see us. So anybody has any questions, we're going to be wrapping it up soon. Oh, yeah. Karen. Karin, I'm sorry. I should say your name properly. That's right. We have a rendering plant in my area. And when you drive by, you can see the parts sweltering. And this is used for pet food. Oh, yeah.
That's usually like the people that are reluctant to listen to me. And I know I come down hard on the pet food industry and stuff, but not for nothing. They deserve it. Like Jessica Fisher just did a podcast on, she went to the recent AFCO meeting. And if you guys haven't listened to it, the Pet Parent Reset, she talked about it. I mean, it's ridiculous. The things they're talking about allowing into animal feed, which feeds the animals that we then go eat. So whether it's going into our pet food directly or if it's going into the pet food indirectly, it's still going in there, and they're okay with that. And the staggering number of things that are outlawed in Europe and all the other countries, and we're like, oh, it's okay. Yeah. And Nabisco won't have to change their packaging this month.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's bad.
A great tip. I need to go listen to that myself. Jessica Fisher hosts a podcast, the Pet Parenting Reset. She is a certified holistic pet health coach. She's also a canine nutritionist. In addition, she is also a mentor The holistic pet health coaches are learning from some of the best around. So speaking of, this has been the best. Like, I've really had a lot of fun. That you've got a wonderful personality, and
I get myself into trouble sometimes.
we like honorees sometimes. A little honoree's good.
Now, this has been fun. I'm always nervous to speak in public, which is kind of why I'm a little apprehensive about the talk on the 8th, but I'm excited too, because I'm excited to share what I know. So
you're going to be fantastic. And, remember, I say our slogan is real talk about real pets and our real reasons. And we had some real talk today, and I certainly appreciate it. And for those of you listening, if you're listening to this live or if you're listening to it later, look at Beth's amazing experience, what she brings to the table, the things that she's had in her life, her experience with behavior and nutrition, because she is a darn good holistic pet health coach and trainer. And it's been really fun getting to know her. So I have been happy to share her experience with you. And Beth, thank you for your time. I know that you're a busy lady and that you are planning for the Know Better, Do Better event. Don't forget, everyone, September 8th, Know Better, Do Better. Check it out.
I'm looking forward to meeting you guys, whoever's there.
Yes. So with that, we're going to call it a day. Happy Friday, everyone. And thank you again for joining. Thanks for all of your support. And as always, positive vibes.